Oh my god. I forgot. Okay, I started recording then. Great. Hello, beautiful bookworms! My name is Katarina and welcome to my channel. And today I am going to be doing a TBR. Yes, you heard me correctly. A TBR. Because I'm going to try and participate in a readathon, which might not happen or it might. We don't know. We will see. So the readathon that I'm talking about starts at the beginning of August, 1st of August, and it ends in the 31st of August, which is great because we need a month to read stuff since we are not planning to have a lot of vacations. We will see if I can get to all of these or if this will actually be the end TBR for the thing. We don't know. We will find out together, okay? So the Spooky Smart Beach Readathon is created by Jordaline from the channel Jordaline Reads. I will leave the link to her channel down below. I love her. She's one of the best horror booktubers ever. And so I'm very excited to be a part of this since I idolize her and I haven't been a part of any of the renditions of this. The prompts sound amazing and I really love how it shifts the focus from more white men written horror genre, if you know what I mean. Not that I don't like that, because let's face it, it's kind of the progression of horror. It started like that, but now we have new voices and new stories and new things that are interesting and that should be brought to light, and so these challenges are really fun and amazing to actually start and read. So this is a horror-based readathon, so if you don't like horror books and you don't want to read horror books, don't participate. You can try and put your spin on it, so something that you might not be as happy with, and it's not exactly a horror, but it's something that makes you feel out of your reach or something. You can try and participate as well if you want. She explains it way better than me, so I will leave her video in her channel. And without further ado, my TBR for this. So I have everything on my little schedule planner. As you can see, August 1st is a Sunday, and I wrote all the challenges and the books that I'm planning to read for the challenges, but these might change because of access or availability or possibility, or if I have vacations or not, so we will just try. So the first challenge is to read a horror novel based on a true story or a true crime book. And for that one, I decided to read The Shadow Book of Jin Yoon. It's sort of an anthology of Chinese tales, and it wasn't actually published by Jin Yoon because that dude wrote these in 17 something? I don't know. He was one of those people that are sort of like descendants of the Confucian method of study and philosophy, and the thing with this is that they're sort of like Lovecraftian Chinese stories, but at the same time there's been a lot of discussion between academics if these horror stories, these anthology stories, actually happen or not, because the author, before he died, because of course he's dead already, Jin Yoon, he said that what he was written was stuff that had happened to him and to people that he knew and were accurate portrayals of things that actually happened. However, and most of these are embedded in Chinese folklore, so I was very curious about this. And I actually started reading this previously to knowing that I was going to use this for this readathon because I was reading the introduction, and in the introduction it says that since he swore by it that the stories were real, people start to try to discuss and study if the stories were supposed to be metaphors for terrible things that happen nowadays, like human trafficking or war, rapes, creepy things that actually happen in real life, but that he put his supernatural twist on it, and it was a horror story. So they don't know if it was metaphorical, if he actually believes that he saw paranormal activities, or what is going on. But because of that, I decided to just reach in a little bit and consider these true stories and true crime books. So I'm going to be reading this. I stopped after the introduction, so I haven't read any of the tales, and I'm going to be reading this in August. So the second challenge is read a horror book by LGBTQIA2S, I think that's how you pronounce it, plus author. And for this one I chose one. I have already read one comic series by this author, and I want to read more because I love the writing style and the plot points of this. And so I decided I was going to read In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. Everyone and their mother's already read this. I have a PDF version of it that I got, and the fact of the matter is, In the Dream House is a horror story because it has to do with an abusive relationship, an abusive lesbian relationship that the author was involved in. And so she depicts everything about this abuse as a house with a body. And I think it's very descriptive. I think it's a little bit uncomfortable, and it's considered a horror, a literary horror. I wanted to know the experience, and I want to read more by Carmen Maria Machado because her writing style is excellent. And so, yeah, we'll read it. Then we have 3. Read a translated horror novel. And for this one, I chose Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Basterrica. And I do believe that this was first printed as Spanish, as a Spanish novel. But I only have access to the English version of this. I can actually read Spanish. I have read a lot of mangas in Spanish and some other tales in Spanish, but I only have access to the actual translated English version of this. So I decided to read this one because most of the books that I have are originally English, and I have them in English, or they're like Scandinavian and translated, so I don't really know, but there's also a possibility that I will read sort of a thriller horror translated from, I don't know, Scandinavia or something. We don't know yet, but Tender is the Flesh is the main contestant for this, and that is the story of when meat ceases to be available for human consumption, humans start to breed other humans just to eat, I think. And obviously is a discussion about whether we should eat meat or not. But I mean, I want to read it. I want to know what it is about. I've heard there is some triggering scenes, and so be careful of that, but I really wanted to. Then it says, read a horror novel written by a woman. And for this one, I actually have the physical copy of this, which is The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell. I do believe that the author identifies as female, and so because of that, I am picking this one up. This is supposed to be sort of a gothic rendering, sort of like Hunting of Hill House meets Crimson Peak. It's this woman, she is married to this man, but he dies, I believe, and she's pregnant, and she has to go and live alone in this strange house. And the house has this painting that it looks like her, and it looks like it's looking at her. So I do believe it might be an exploration on gothic paranoia, but I'm not sure if there's paranormal, and it's a horror, so I'm very excited to read it. Then we have the 5th challenge, which is read a horror novel by a BIPOC author. And for this one, I have 2 options. I have The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, which I have been wanting to read for forever at this point. But I also have one that I have an actual physical novel and that I've also been very intrigued to read about. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the literary horror historical named Beloved by Toni Morrison. So I have heard people say that this could be counted as a literary horror fiction. It's obviously historical. I do believe, I haven't heard a lot about this, but I do believe this is about a slave woman that, in order to escape the horrible conditions of her life, had to kill her baby daughter. And so that child, the ghost of that child, hunts her forever throughout her life. So it's sort of, I do believe there's an actual manifestation of a ghost that haunts her, but it's supposed to be metaphorical for her guilt and for presenting all the situations that she had to live through. And all of her family knows about this and how they deal with this ghost. And I feel like this is a bit of a psychological literary horror. I am not sure if that's how you can categorize it, and I'm not sure if I'm going to read this or The Only Good Indians, but I do believe that they both fit this prompt. And I have to say that people have told me that this is harsh to read and that it's actually horror because it's based on stuff that happened and still happens racism is a thing, people, in a lot of places. And so because of that, I really wanted to immerse myself in this experience and to understand a little bit more about this through the eyes of someone that knows what this is. So probably I will read this one, I'm not sure. Then it says, read a horror novel you've never seen anyone talk about on social media. And for that one, I chose The Ice Twins by S.K. Tremaine. Now, I'm not really sure if there's a picture of S.K. Tremaine. Yeah, so he's a white dude, which probably wasn't really the point of this, but I have never heard anyone talk about The Ice Twins, and this sounds like a horror, creepy thing that you could read in summer, maybe more of a thriller, maybe more of a psychological horror. And it says, Lydia, well, I'm going to have to translate this because this is in Portuguese, but the original of this is in English. So this says, Lydia and Kirsty had 6 years old and they were identical twins. When Lydia dies accidentally falling from a balcony, their parents move to a small Scottish island in the hopes of rebuilding with the daughter that they have left their broken lives. 1 year later, the surviving twin accuses the parents of making a grave mistake, and she states that who fell from the balcony was actually Kirsty and not her, and she is Lydia. In the night that a storm, I don't know how to say this word in English, but there's a storm in the island, and the mother and daughter get isolated because the dad has to go somewhere, I don't fucking know. So the mother and daughter are tortured by the past, unexplainable visions that almost drive them mad. What really happened in that fateful day in which one of the twins died? There could be supernatural, but I don't believe so. I think it's psychological horror at his best, I would like to say. So I want to read it because nobody talks about this. So is it that because it's terrible, or is it actually good? I don't know. I want to know. And then it says, read a horror manga. It's the last challenge of them all. And for that one, I mean, I have a lot, but probably all of them I have already read, the one that I have here. So what I decided to do is either I will read a graphic novel, which is not really a manga, but because I already read a lot of horror mangas, I mean, you can see them behind me, it's not news to me, and so if I don't fulfill that prompt completely, whatever, if I have a graphic novel that is interesting and it will fulfill the rest of the prompts and that I like, I will read a graphic novel, or I will read a Shuzo Oshimi manga. Maybe. Because Shuzo Oshimi is known for being a psychological horror mangaka. So, I don't know, and I have all of his books, and I've only read one of his series, which was Happiness, and I started to read Blood on the Tracks, which is his most, I mean, from what people say, I am not evaluating it here, but it's his most deep, psychological, horrifying story, and so maybe I'll go with that. I don't know. And throughout the month of August, this TBR might change. I might read something else, or I might not be able to. We will see. But I would really like to know in the comments down below if you want me to do vlogs for the books that I'm reading, like the experience of August and doing the Spooky Smart Bitch Readathon, or if you don't want that and you just want me to like wrap it up in the end. If you like these picks, or if you have picks that you would prefer me to read or something, just tell me something in the comments down below, to be honest. Jesus, the dust of the books. That and possibly the fact that I've been screaming for like an hour. So yeah, that's all going to be it for today's video. So happy readings to you all. Bye!